friends, I'm Amy and this is A-Star Reads, and it's time for my 5th vlog for Pickpongathon. I got through my 4th vlog a lot quicker than I expected to, so I'm really excited about this one. And although there's another book that I really do want to read right now, I decided to pick up a quick read. It's just something that I think will be a nice fun palate cleanser between the last book I read, which was great. It was nice, it was quick, it was short, but it was a thoughtful book. And the next book I'm going to read after this will be a long book. So I figured it'd be fun to pick up Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert and finally get to the Brown Sister trilogy. I have never yet had a chance to read this series, and I'm very excited about it because it's a romance and it'll be a lot of fun. Okay, I had to move because the sun decided to look at that creepy thing. It's watching over my shoulder. The sun decided to show up and make it really hard for me to see the camera. So Get a Life, Chloe Brown is known for having chronic illness disability rep, and so I'm excited about this because the whole series is actually well known for handling, or Talia Hibbert is well known for handling different disabilities very well in her writing, and I have just heard such great things overall about her writing, not just this series but other books that she has written. So I'm very excited to finally dip my toes into Talia Hibbert's writing as well as this particular series, because I've heard such great things. I've heard some people don't love it. It doesn't hit everybody the right way, but I've heard mostly really good, positive thoughts about this. And recently, especially, I've had quite a few friends who've read it and loved it, or people are just like, hey, I love that book. Today, actually, I went to the therapist for my first time checking in with this new therapist, and it was great. Already, we talked about something that I just didn't really think about as being an issue for me. I mean, I knew there was an issue, but I didn't understand. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. Let's put it that way. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. And she put 2 and 2 together for me very quickly. And then I started crying. So it was good. And I'm here to say I'm pro therapy. It's just so good to have somebody to talk to who is like a sounding board, but also who is licensed and understands different things and knows how best to help you move forward. And she saw my book and she's like, oh my gosh, I love that book. I had a really, really good morning. It was a good thing. And then I cooked an amazing, I should have taken a picture of it. I forgot I was going to, and then I didn't. It was this pesto, kale, bean and rice soup. And it was so good. I will link the video of the recipe down in the description box below. There is this one YouTuber / Instagrammer who I've followed for a little while now, who does these budget grocery lists, and then she makes everything using the foods that she bought. So this is a $55 budget from Trader Joe's, and it makes 5 meals, 4 servings each meal, which for us actually is 10 meals because well, there's not 4 of us in the household. And this soup was filling. It was delicious. I highly recommend checking out this YouTuber channel because I really liked the recipes. At least they seemed like great recipes. It seemed like a nice way to plan for your shopping if you are like me and you need something to be easy and have a grocery list already planned out, but then also something to make with that grocery list. And everything she buys at Trader Joe's, I can't remember her name right now, but yeah, I'll link it all in the description box below and I'll put her name up here. Everything she buys, she uses up completely, which I love. I love that because, you don't end up with a little bit of this left over, a little bit of that left over. And so I thought this week would be a good week to buy the groceries and try out all the recipes because it's a 1-week thing anyways. And so far, the first recipe, well, this is technically the second recipe, but we did it the first one today. I cooked this one first, the soup, and it was so good. I highly recommend it. I am also currently 28% of the way through with my audiobook, which is A Picture of Murder by T.E. Kinsey. This is the 4th book in the Lady Hardcastle series, and just enjoying that. Listened to it for a little bit while I was cooking, and it was perfect. I also listened to some YouTube. So I've been trying to catch up on some things, just feeling good today. Therapy sessions can be really difficult, but sometimes they can be kind of relieving. I'm telling you this because I'm highly for therapy, so I'm just trying to encourage because it can be really good. Alright, so my vlogging game, I feel, in the last week or so has kind of taken a bit of a hit. I haven't been doing as much B-roll and vlogging in general, but I had a good morning. I went and had coffee with a friend who is a teacher friend, and it was just so good to catch up. I have been bad about like trying to maintain my local friendships, or at least cultivate local friendships. And so I'm making an effort to do that. And it was just such a good time to talk about all things teaching and school and the districts and the hardships of finding work right now, because we're both kind of in the same place where we recently finished our programs and we're trying to get in one of the districts nearby. I did some grocery shopping, I went to the library, I had a productive and nice morning. So let's talk about my reading a little bit. I'm currently 38% of the way through A Picture for Murder, or Of Murder. I still can't remember what it is. I'm enjoying the audiobook a lot. We've gotten to a point where we have a couple of mysteries starting to, or at least we're starting to bring in previous mysteries, and maybe that has something to do with something else, or maybe that's gonna have something to do with an underlying mystery. You know how a lot of times mystery series have like the mystery of the book, but then they have a mystery that goes throughout the whole series? I'm very curious if this new turn of events, these new characters that have come into the story and given us some new information, is going to lead to a longer, bigger mystery that we'll have to eventually figure out with Lady Hardcastle and Flo. It is always really nice to have some of the characters from previous stories that you've really liked, or just like have these characters that you've known from other stories come back into the story. So I'm enjoying re-meeting these people. The formula for the Lady Hardcastle series is always pretty much the same thing. There's a very similar pace and routine that each of her books tends to do, and I think it's a really good formula. It is really enjoyable. I love the banter between Flo and Lady Hardcastle, and the way that everything is set up allows us to have a lot of that. I don't think that I will get bored with the formula, but I'm very curious if it will change throughout the series so that it doesn't feel like you're just, you know, same format, different mystery every single time. I'll be curious to see. So far, it feels very similar in the flow, the way these mysteries go, and it works. But I'm just thinking about how many books are in this series and how will it feel after a few more of these? And that's just like not a criticism necessarily, but a long-term thinking. I'm thinking about the series as a whole. As far as Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, I stayed up late. Again, I'm in a reading mood again. So I stayed up till like 1 reading and had a hard time putting this down, but my eyes were like, no, Amy, we will not stay awake any longer. So I couldn't read anymore, which is probably for the best. I needed sleep. So I'm currently on page 154, and I'm really getting into this. You know, at first, it took me a little time to get into the writing style of Talia Hibbert. It was just a little, I don't want to say choppy, that's not the right word, but it was such a different flow from the last book that I read when I read Dawn by Octavia Butler. The style of writing was so very different that it took me a minute to really settle into it and start enjoying the romance and the story as much as I am enjoying it now. And I really like these characters. I find them very fun and interesting and quirky and unique. I love the representation. I feel like it's a very large part of the story, and I think that Talia Hibbert, at least as far as I can tell, is handling things quite well. And I think that she does have fibromyalgia herself, and so talking about fibromyalgia in this story, I think it is pretty close to her heart. I just really finding this to be a charming, fun story. It's fun, and it's exactly what I was hoping for. I was hoping for a little bit of a romantic, summery, I mean, it's not summery, but like when I think of summer, I do think romance fits really well within the summer vibe. And so anytime I can pick up a romance during the summer, I'm quite happy. Morning. It is, what is today? Thursday morning, having my coffee. I had an amazing breakfast, as you saw. That French toast recipe is delicious. And it's very simple too. It's just the French toast with cinnamon and what have you. And that's like a basic French toast mix with eggs, milk, cinnamon, a little bit of salt. Like, I didn't add anything special to that. And then the bread was just this French bread we get from grocery outlet. And then it was ricotta, raspberries, and a little bit of maple syrup. It was perfect, it was delicious, and now I gotta tell you that I have already finished Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I stayed up till like 1 a.m. reading, of course, because I'm back in the mood for reading. Like, it was the same with Dawn. I just feel like sitting and reading. So that's fantastic. Yeah, very excited about this. Also not very excited about editing almost 3 hours worth of a video. So that's probably why I've been procrastinating editing with reading. But that's okay. I'm gonna start editing today. I feel I'm in the mood for it. We also have some other stuff we need to do, just household stuff. I wanted to let you know what I thought about Chloe Brown. I wanted to give you a bit of a book haul, and was there anything else? I don't know, maybe that's it. As far as A Picture of Murder by T.E. Kinsey, and I hope that's the title of it because that's what I just keep calling it now. I am 38% of the way through that, I think, something along those lines, and I'm not gonna get a chance to, I may be able to listen to it a little bit today, but I'm not gonna get a chance to listen to it for a couple of days because I have something different I'm doing tomorrow, and I'll have a vlog for that coming out in whenever it comes out. It's something for her kid, so I'm excited about that. And I'm glad that I got this done in time. I don't think I'm gonna read too much today because I'm gearing up for tomorrow. So let's talk about Get a Life, Chloe Brown before I do my book haul. And I've gotta say, this was a blast. I was really trying to think about what I wanted to rate this, and I'm probably gonna give it a 4.25 stars. I think that feels the most accurate. I love so much about what Talia Hibbert added to this. It took me a little time to get into the writing, not a lot, maybe like 20 or 30 pages. Once I got used to Talia Hibbert's writing, I really started enjoying this. It's very comforting. I mean, there's a lot of aspects of this that aren't comforting, but as far as being a romance story and just being an easy read, something fun to dig into, I really got exactly what I was hoping for from this. And I like the characters. They're funny, they're cute. Their humor at times is maybe not the same humor I had as far as their dialogue went. The things that they would just start laughing and laughing over, I was like, okay, well, it's cute that that's funny for you. I liked the humor overall of the story. I just mean the humor that the couple shared. I was like, oh, you're so cute together. That is, yeah. I didn't tell you at all what this story is about. So Chloe has fibromyalgia. She has had some really difficult aspects and times in her life, especially when she first developed fibromyalgia. It was incredibly hard because nobody knew what was going on with her, nobody believed her, and she went through years of a lot of pain and a lot of fear and trying to figure things out. And of course, in that process, she really ended up being very isolated in a lot of ways, not living a life that she felt she was enjoying as much. She was basically doing the bare minimum. And a lot of times it was because she was afraid of what was going to happen. What was going to happen with her body, what was going to happen if she let other people in. And so there are a lot of looks at, and her fibromyalgia is a big part of the story. And I really appreciated that perspective. I appreciated the representation. I thought it was done really well. And I thought it was also very interesting to get a look into this and how people who do have fibromyalgia, because I've known a couple people who have chronic illnesses, to see how they manage on a day-to-day basis, considering they don't know what their body's gonna do any day. You don't know when you're gonna be feeling well, you don't know when you're gonna be feeling unwell. And to see how someone who has learned better how to manage her pain and to understand her body has gone through this whole process of understanding herself, I think it was a very important perspective for anybody to understand and learn from. But I really appreciated understanding and learning from her perspective. So that was fantastic. Loved that. I thought Red was a very unique and interesting character. He was a very sweet, romantic, kind male character, and I really liked his character a lot. Is he my ideal romance man? I know, because I was reading reviews of this and people are like, Red is so hot, and I'm like, yeah, he's hot. He's just, I guess he's not my dude, like my romance dude that I'm like, ooh, he's super hot. He was, and he was sweet, and I really liked his character a lot. For Chloe, I'm very happy for them. I was very happy for them. But when you're reading romance, especially the romance that's a little more smutty, it definitely enhances it if that particular character is a character after your own heart, sort of thing. So I really liked Red a lot. I really liked Chloe a lot. Was this my ideal romance as far as the characters for me, for my own taste? Maybe not. So I'm curious to read about Dani's experience, her two younger sisters, Dani's and Eve's experience, to see if their romance are more like, ooh, this is the one that's super hot. I really did like where they went with talking through things in communication. I felt like some of the issues that Chloe had, I've had myself when it comes to relationships and avoiding relationships. And so those were interesting conversations that I was able to like grab onto and feel like, okay, this feels a lot like what I can relate to. And not saying that the rest of the story wasn't something I could relate to. It was just, I don't know how to explain that. It sounds weird, like I'm not enjoying it. I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4.25 stars, and I'm not as lenient with romances sometimes. So I think this was fantastic, and I'm just so excited to be reading from Talia Hibbert, and can't wait to read more. So anyways, I didn't tell you what the story was about. So we got Chloe. She has fibromyalgia. She has all these things that have been hanging her up until this point, and she wants to get a life because at the very beginning of this book, she has a near-death experience, and she's like, what would be the eulogy at my funeral? And she's really unimpressed with what's on there. So she writes a list of how she wants to get a life. And the first thing she feels she needs to do is move out of her family home. So she does. And the superintendent of her new apartment complex just so happens to be Red. And her and Red don't get off on the right foot. They both have preconceived notions about each other. They have a lot of misconceptions, and they both keep feeding those misconceptions about each other. So it doesn't start out well. But eventually Red begins to help her with her get a life list. And the rest is history, as they say. Highly recommended if you're looking for a fun, steamy, enjoyable romance read with very sweet characters. Chloe isn't always the sweetest, but you really do get to see a softer side of her as the story progresses. Understandably, she's not sweet. She's been in a lot of pain for most of her life. And so it's so great to see the underbelly of who Chloe is. And then Red is basically sweet like the whole time. So he's just a cinnamon roll character. He really is. I noticed my friend was saying there wasn't a lot of conversation about the fat representation in this. And I agree, there wasn't. And I don't know how I feel about that, because overall I did like this, and the emphasis was definitely more on a disability rep. And Chloe is what society would consider a fat woman. And so the descriptions in some places were talking a little bit about her body being soft and lush and thick and stuff like that. So there were descriptions and whatnot of her curvy body, but there wasn't any conversation about fat representation. At the very beginning, she says, I never really think about my weight. That was kind of like it. You know, she doesn't think about her weight, doesn't focus on that at all. That was the extent of the conversation around body image and weight. When you're hoping for more protagonists that do give you that representation as a fat woman, maybe this is not going to be the book, and I don't know if it's going to be the series, but this is not the book that's going to do it unless you're just looking to normalize it, in which case it isn't talked about a lot. It's not a conversation in this. And I really think that's because the focus really was on disability rep in this one, and I think that was the right place to put it. So it might have been too much if we tried to get into more than one thing, is what I'm saying. But maybe not. I don't know. I also know that there's people who feel like they get tired of things being constantly pointed out and those conversations being constantly had. But I honestly think if you look at popular literature across time, we haven't had that conversation very much about fat representation and about what it's like to be a fat woman in our society. It really hasn't happened that much. So if we get like tired of like, I just want to see them normalized and never have that conversation, there are people, and myself included for sure, who want to have that conversation more, who want to have those feelings that are associated with being a fat person discussed more in books, because it's something we work through on a daily basis and it's something that we feel. And so you are looking for, like, where the disability rep in here was very detailed. There was a lot of information about it. There was a lot of thinking through it. There was a lot of understanding where she's coming from. We didn't get that at all from the fat representation in this. So it is there in the sense that she is a fat female protagonist, but it is not necessarily there in the conversations that you tend to have in books where we have that as something that occurs. I don't know how to explain that, but I hope you know what I mean. So I just totally went off on a tangent there. Okay, so I have to first and foremost apologize to my friend Natalie from Nat Cat's Bookish Cafe because she offered very kindly and wonderfully to give me books that she is selling on Pango, and I will link her Pango down below. So please go check out her Pango and buy some books. And she very kindly, when I visited her on my road trip, offered to give me some books. And she's like, it'll be easier because then I can just give them to you when I see you. And it was just so sweet and kind and thoughtful. And I was like, no, I'm trying not to take in new books. I'm being very, very cognizant, not buying new books, not hitting up any little free libraries. I'm not gonna take in any new books. And then the very next day, I went and had coffee with Margaret Pinard, and it was wonderful. And she physically brought a bag full of books. And she put them in front of me, and she forced me to look through them. She didn't force me, but and I was like, oh no, my strength that I had yesterday, it crumbled and fell. So Natalie, I'm sorry. I got a whole bunch of books, and it wasn't like I was lying to you. I was very truthful in telling you that I wasn't supposed to take in new books, but my willpower only holds out so far. So I'm going to share with you the books that I got from Margaret. I'm very excited to be taking some books in from Margaret. She has a very eclectic taste, and because she's an author, she gets some really interesting books that she reads through, and then some of these books she hasn't even read, but she was like, I'm just not going to read them. Like, I'm just not going to read them, so I'm unhauling them. And so I went through the bag of books. I didn't take all of them. I was good. I was really paying attention to whether or not I'm going to want the books and whether or not I think I'll actually read them. But I did get quite a few. So I'm not going to go into detail about these books because there's a few. So I wasn't kidding when I said that I'm a disgrace. I'm a disgrace. I cannot resist. I'm so terrible. Okay, so let's see what we got in here. I don't even remember. I honestly don't remember. Okay, so first things first. Oh, James Baldwin, Go Tell It on the Mountain. This is one that I absolutely want to read. Have wanted to read, heard amazing things. I've only read one book from James Baldwin, and I can't remember what it is now. I think Go Tell It on the Mountain is on my scratch board. Oh, I just hit my glasses. I think it's on the scratch board. Is it? Yeah, it is. Okay, so Go Tell It on the Mountain is on my scratch board. So when I saw this one, I was like, yes, please. I definitely want this one, and it'll give me a chance to scratch this off my scratch board eventually. Not Giovanni's Room, that's another one I want to read of his. What is the one that I read? It's the romance. It's the two kids in the... I'll put it up here. The next book, randomly pulling out of here, is... We'll go. Oh, there's a lot. This one. Once They Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. I don't remember what it's about though. I have definitely seen this one. It looks like it's a thriller. Okay, so this is about two sisters. Inti is the main character, and she is a biologist who is reintroducing wolves to this community. Oh, Scotland, the Highlands of Scotland. And I guess they're from the US, or they've lived in the US. Oh yeah, Inti Flynn, that's a Scottish name, but they were living in the US. And something drove them out of Alaska, and it really affected her sister. So she's hoping this process will obviously not only reintroduce the wolves, but heal her sister and maybe herself as well. But then of course things don't always go as they're planned, and it's not a thriller, but it does sound very interesting. And I always love fiction books that have a biology element to it. Just those ones get me a lot. Then we've got Broccoli and Other Tales of Food and Love by Laura, I'm not gonna even try, Bepignor. This is 6 short stories, and I always love books like this for readathons and whatnot. Short stories about food and just people. And I went to culinary school. I was a chef, so I really do love food as well. I mean, obviously I love food. I mean, I like stories about food. I love science and food. I love history of food. I really think that that's interesting in books, interesting to read about, kind of like my love of biology in books. And so I thought this one would be a very fun short story collection to pick up. Next, we've got Good Behavior by Molly Keene. This is a Booker Prize, shortlisted. I think the main character kills her mother with food, or this is an Irish, it says, an Irish tragic comedy. So it's dark humor, which I really do tend to like dark humor a lot. It says Good Behavior, and it says about making her case. I'm guessing she has to use her life to explain why she killed her mother. And her mother was sick and dying anyways, or older. And it sounds like she kills her with food that she feeds her. And then she has to explain away in this story, is what it sounds like. But I don't know, for some reason this really drew me in and sounded interesting. I think the whole dark comedy thing got me because I tend to find myself really drawn to stories like that. What else was it that drew me into this? Maybe it was Margaret. She probably said something and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds good. See, I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker. Okay, what's next? Oh, Alice Walker, The Temple of My Familiar. And I have no clue what it's about, but I figured because I liked the color purple so much, I'd like to try more of Alice Walker's work and see if she is a more classic style writer that I really enjoy. Like modern classic. When was this written? 1989. So I consider that modern classic. All right, next we have, oh, World of Wonders. I have seen this cover before, and this is Amy, a name I'm not going to try and pronounce. This is in praise of fireflies, whale sharks, and other astonishments. And I think this is a collection of essays about Amy's life and sort of the experiences that she had. I wonder if she's a biologist or what have you, but she has an affinity and an understanding of animals, and she's worked with them in some way. I don't know, but I thought this cover was gorgeous. And like I said, if it has some kind of biology element to it, I'm going to be intrigued. I'm going to be interested. And it has creatures that I would be very curious to learn more about. Plus, Amy is half Filipina and half indigenous from Mexico. I don't know where her father exactly is from or how he identifies, but I think this sounds interesting. And you know, I don't really read very many books that have Filipina protagonists or that kind of representations. And I just think, honestly, it's like a cover buy. Okay, next. Oh, Death at Gallows Green, a Victorian mystery. Yeah, I got this because look at this. Robin Page. It is super cute. This was definitely a cozy pickup because it just sounded fun. It's very like cottagecore vibes, right? So I was like, ooh, Death at Gallows Green. It looks like this is not the first book in a series. Great. So I'm gonna have to look up this series and see what number this is and if I will be able to stand reading it without having read the first few or the first one. I don't know. We'll check it out though. And it just looked so cute and fun and cozy, and yeah, like I said, I'm a sucker. Ooh, this was easy. This was an easy pick. No, this wasn't from Margaret. This was a book that I actually got on my trip. Oh my gosh. This, my wonderful Aunt Judy bought me when we were enjoying the Steinbeck Museum. No, not the Steinbeck Museum, the Steinbeck house where he grew up. And they have a little bookstore down below in this beautiful house. And this is Cannery Row, the history of John Steinbeck's Old Ocean View Avenue and its connections to the Pacific Northwest. Now, Judy and I have definitely done a Cannery Row tour where we were looking at all the Steinbeck locations, places that were really inspired his book, Cannery Row. And, you know, he spent a lot of time there. So not only were we looking at places that were important to John Steinbeck, but also Doc Ricketts. Edward Ricketts was an important actual figure within Cannery Row back in the day. And so I just think this is fascinating. I feel like that history is fascinating, especially because I come from that area. I mean, I'm not from Monterey particularly, but I spent a lot of time in Monterey and I come from the Northern California area. So I just was really excited when I saw this. And I think it'll also give us more information about how it relates to John Steinbeck. So when we go back to Cannery Row, because inevitably we will be able to see more of the John Steinbeck or Ed Ricketts connections. And yeah, I just thought this was a beautiful book and has beautiful pictures and stuff. Oh yeah, tons of beautiful pictures. So Judy got this for me as a gift because she loves me and I'm spoiled. So that wasn't from Margaret. Okay, here's more though. Ooh, Tea and Sympathetic Magic, Tansy Rayner Roberts. This looks like another cozy, fun mystery sort of thing. Very eligible young lady of the Teacup Isles wants to marry a duke. Oh, this must be a romance. There's nothing more dangerous than an eligible duke. Yes, this looks really cute. I think Margaret said she actually read this one and it was a lot of fun, or I don't remember what she said, but she was a little surprised, and I was a little surprised at the length of this. So that one just looked like a lot of fun. So I may have just said, okay, I'll take that one. Then we've got The Coffin Path by Catherine Clements. I mean, who doesn't love a ghost story? So this is about Scarcross. and the Moors, and this woman who is learning more things about Scarcross Hall at the top of the old coffin path. And she doesn't believe all the stuff that they say about the Moors and ghosts and stuff like that, but there are things that are starting to point towards nefarious deeds, or things that are not so, maybe they're shady, maybe there are ghosts, I have no clue, but I just thought this one looked like a really fun fall read. And I can't remember if Margaret said anything about it, if she had read it or hadn't. But I was like, ooh, that looks like something I would really enjoy. So I took it. See, there's not a lot of rhyme and reason for these. I just cover bought a lot. And then we've got The Phoenix Crown by Kate Quinn and Janie Chang. I haven't read anything by Janie Chang, but I have now read something by Kate Quinn. I really liked it. And so I kind of just picked this up because of Kate Quinn. And Margaret said that you can definitely tell where, like, I guess if you've read Janie Chang, you can tell where the difference in their voices came in this book, which I think is interesting. And the other reason I picked this up is because it's San Francisco 1906, and I am from that area, like I said, and so anything from that area fascinates me. I love reading books about places that I'm familiar with. It makes the experience so much more enjoyable because you recognize things, you know the history, and 1906 was the big fire. So what did we learn about this? I think this will be an interesting one just because of where it's set. And I really liked Kate Quinn's writing style as well as her research, so I'll be very curious what I can actually learn from this as well. Okay. The Whole World Over by Julia Klass, the new novel. Oh, why did I pick this? Because it has food on the cover? Maybe. Oh, our main character, Greenie Duquette, she owns a Greenwich Village bakery. So it's set in New York, which I find fascinating. I like a book set in New York. And she's a baker. It sounds like this is the sweeping tale of these different people, the things that are going on in their lives and how their lives are touching each other. Good or bad, I don't know. But I think that that sounds interesting. I do like books like that. And it's about a baker. So I was like, okay, that's something different. Plus, a lot of these books I've never heard of before. And I just thought it would be interesting to try books not on the BookTube radar, books that you just don't get to hear people talking about very often. Because then maybe through me reading them, people will discover new authors or new books that they would like to try out. So I'm always interested in what Margaret is sharing with me because, you know, most of the time I have no clue what these books are and where they came from and who the authors are. So it's always exciting to learn something new, explore someone new, and some new writing styles. So this is my giant stack oh no, of brand new books, and I gotta find a home for them. I'm hopeless, unbelievable. Well, I have a haul. That was my haul. And let me know in the comment section down below if you've read any of these books, what you thought about them, if you did read them. I'd love to hear your comments and your thoughts. And yes, it's okay. It's okay that I brought in more books. I don't mind. I hope you don't mind, because it doesn't matter whether or not you mind. I did. I brought them in anyways. So that's going to be it for this video. Let me know in the comment section down below. Have you read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and what you thought about it when you read it? I know that a lot of us probably have read it, finally got around to reading it, and some of your thoughts. Love to hear some of your thoughts. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe so you can see what happens with my special vlog I'm doing tomorrow, and when I get back to specific Pickpongathon vlogs on Saturday. It'll be Saturday. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.